Hello and welcome to Daily Armor. Today we're going to be again in Psalms 138, looking at verse number 8 one more time. Psalms 138, verse number 8. And I have a question to ask. And I want you to kind of think back and I want you to ponder on this for a while. And what are some things that God has used to perfect some things in you? What are some things that He is using to go through that process of perfecting some things in you and in me? And as I was looking at this Psalms 138:8, and then correlating that with a message that I recently heard on forgiveness, I realized that that was one of the ways that God was changing me. He was performing some things in my life. He was doing some things with me and changing me, and He was doing it with all these other things. And so let's look at Psalms 138, verse number 8, and then we'll talk about this a little bit more. Verse number 8 says, "The Lord will perfect that which concerneth me. Thy mercy, O Lord, endureth forever. Forsake not the works of thine own hands." Sometimes the Heavenly Father, He has to do some things in our life to get us where He wants us to be. He has to use, so He's got lots of different ways to do this. And as I was looking back, I kind of pondered on about six different things. And I would say there's two that would be at the very top of my list of things that from my viewpoint, He may have a different viewpoint of it, but from my viewpoint, looking back on the way that I used to be, and in the process of about 22 years, looking back, I can look at these two major things that He has used to change me. And be careful when you're looking at the changes that you're going through, because sometimes I have in my past, I would say about maybe 5 years ago, was looking and I was realizing, hey, God has changed me. I'm not like I was. And I was almost worried that I wasn't sure I liked where I was going, but I was still in that process. See, the Lord was still doing some things. I was still in that process. So don't judge yourself. Let the Lord do the work, but don't look at yourself like you're at the final result, because we're never at the final result. He is constantly working in us. We're going to get to that perfection one day in heaven. I have that perfect body, that perfect attitude, but I don't have it here, don't have it right now. But I so have seen how He is perfecting some things. He is performing, He's completing some things. He has ended some things. He stopped some things in my life, and I'm so thankful that they've stopped. And He's used that to replace some things that He wanted in my life. And in that new, as I'm working through that new stuff, then that's a process as well. So I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm not saying that you're perfect. I'm not saying that I can even achieve perfection, but I know that He is doing some things. He is working on some things, and I'm looking back, and like I mentioned, the message I recently heard on forgiveness, and you would think that the message, probably the first thing that comes to your mind on when I say that there was a message on forgiveness, was the forgiveness that we receive from the Lord. But I don't want us to miss that we also are to give forgiveness. Not just receive it, but give it. And the Lord has set up lots of things for us to receive, but He's also said, but I need you to give back here. I mean, even like when you receive a paycheck, the Lord's like, okay, I've made a way for you to earn a living. Now I want you to give some of that back. He's doing that for our good. It's not about the money. It's about keeping the correct attitude and not letting other things control us and taking our eyes off of Him. And so I would say that forgiveness is one of those ways that He absolutely was using that to change me. And not just that I received His forgiveness upon salvation, and I was ever so thankful and ever so grateful and overwhelmed by it, but then when He started dealing with me about saying that I was sorry for some things, I was like, whoa, that hurts. You ever had to say you were sorry about something? It hurts. It's quite painful. It's kind of humiliating. And he used that in my life, made me say I was sorry, even if I felt like that the reason I was sorry was because of what somebody else did. God is saying, you say you're sorry for your part in it. If I reacted incorrectly, if my reaction, wasn't what he wanted, what the Lord wanted, then that's what I was apologizing about. But even to do that was hard. I could ask him for forgiveness. And when you're really asking for forgiveness, it's not, but Lord, they did this. That's not asking for forgiveness. It's when he really, really made me see. He was making me see that I was responsible for me. That I'm to let him take care of any wrongdoing on anybody else's part. That was his business, not mine. And that my business was to be cautious about how I acted and how I reacted in situations. Why? Because he was molding me. He was changing me. He was growing me. He was raising me the way he wants me to be. And he's still doing that. But one of the largest ways that I can think of is for me to have to say I was sorry. I have really, really made some dumb mistakes. I have really got caught up in the moment and said some things, done some things that I regret, and I can't take them back. But the first step is to ask him for forgiveness. The second step is to ask anybody that I have offended to say, I am so sorry for what I've done. And he has used that to help me tremendously, to grow me in such a tremendous way. And like I said, I'm not arrived. I don't have it all figured out. I'm still going to mess up. But I can look back and see he is really, really doing some things in my life over the past 22 some years. And another way that I have seen him work in my life is through his word, and not just reading it, but applying it. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart is easy to say, and it makes you feel good. But when you really, really have to put it to the test, when you're put to the test where you have to apply it, when it doesn't look good, things are looking bad, and all he's telling you is trust in the Lord with all thine heart, lean not into thine understanding, in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. Over and over, and day after day. And the journey may be long, the journey may be a horrible week, the journey may be a horrible month, it may be a really, really, really rough year. It may be a rough 2 or 3 years. And the whole time he's telling you the same thing in that still small voice, ever so calm, ever so gentle. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him. In every which way you can turn, acknowledge him. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. Day after day, hour after hour, whatever it takes. And he has used his word, not just that I could read it and memorize it or study, look up the words about it, but actually that it's been applied. I've had to apply it. I've had to use it. I've had to fall back on it. I've had to hold to his word, and he's never, ever let me down. And that changed me. That really, really made some huge changes in my life. Another way that I'm looked back and seen that he has really changed me in a lot of ways, a lot of times I'll have just a grumpy attitude about something, and the way that he has chosen to change me in that way is he's challenged me to pray. If somebody has wronged me, hurt me, or something like that, then he is like, I want you to pray for that person. I'm like, Lord, I don't want to pray for that person. I really don't even like that person. And he's like, that's why I want you to pray for him. I want you to pray for him. I want you to do something nice for him. I want you to do something nice for him. Really? They don't deserve that. But I didn't deserve his forgiveness. I didn't deserve his love. He just does it. He just did it. He just loved me anyway. And now he wants me to extend that to others. And so he is used to pray for someone, to pray about a situation that I really didn't want to do. But as I was obedient and did what he wanted, he has used prayer to change me, to help me. It may not even have changed anything about the situation on the outside, but it changed me toward the situation on the inside. It changed my attitude. It helped me. It took away any hostility. It took away any, any kind of, grumpiness, any kind of bad attitude. It took that away time and time and time again. Every time, it's like it happens automatically. He don't have to tell me now. It's like, oh, I sense a little attitude here. I need to pray for that person. Because I don't want to have that. I don't want to have any kind of broken fellowship. I don't want to cause any kind of strife. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to pray. And I'm going to pray for that situation. And it's not that kind of prayer where, get them, Lord. I probably have prayed something like that in the past. Get them, Lord. It's not that kind of prayer that we pray. It's forgive them, Lord. Help them, Lord. They must be having a bad day. Something must be going on, Lord. And they're just taking it out on me, but it must be something else going on. And they don't want to talk about it. They're going through something. And Lord, I pray for you to help them. It's that kind of prayer. And that's the kind of prayer that'll change you. And it has changed me. And it continues. It continues to be something that I go to. Another way, how does he perfect? How does he perform? What are the ways that he is using to complete some things in my life? What has he used to be in the process of doing some things in your life? Look back. What are some of those things? I would say to see his goodness. His goodness has been so overwhelming to me. And it's been in very specifically personal, small things. Not big, not giving me everything that I wanted. Not giving me all, the things that I have ever wanted or asked for. It's not in those ways. It was in those really, really small, only significant to me. They were small to everybody else, but they were huge to me. I can think of several instances where that happened. One would probably be the smallest to anybody else, but was still one of the very, very largest things that I can still remember. I remember receiving the gift and thinking, oh my goodness, this is so specifically, you couldn't have got more specific. Absolutely, just down to the last detail of something so small to anybody else. Chloe Woodard was very young. I'm not sure how old she was. Very, very young, elementary school age. I can't remember how old she was. We had not been at the church very long, so I don't remember how old she was when we got there. Bryant was 8, and she's younger than Bryant, so she was younger than 8. And when I had the church keys, and 2 of the church keys look just alike. One is to get into the church, the other key is to get into the office. And I remember getting aggravated because it seemed like I always grabbed the wrong key to try to get in the door. And I had put some marker on there. I tried to mark the church door so I could get in the door. And I had tried to mark it and it kept rubbing off. I'd do things and I would put some tape on it. The tape would slip off. And I kept thinking, Lord, I just would like a key cover or something, one of them covers that you put over a key. And I said, I don't even know where to get one. And I really didn't even have any money to go purchase one. I mean, we were broke. We were absolutely broke. And that would be something that was not I'm not going to purchase something even as simple as a key cover when I'm, thinking, am I going to even have a loaf of bread, or if I can buy a dozen eggs because we ate a lot of egg sandwiches, trying to get by, trying to make do. And, to go shopping was out of the question. To go looking around for something like this was out of the question. It was just, I felt like I couldn't do anything. And I remember it was probably about a week later, and Chloe come up to me. She's like, Miss Teresa, I got you a present. And I'm like, oh, thank you, baby. It's so, so sweet. And when she gave it to me, it was a cover for my key. And my keys it's an odd shape. It was specifically for the church key. Of all the things to give me, it was a cover for my church key. That was so specific. I mean, you wouldn't believe how that made my day. I'm still thinking about it, and that's been 13 years ago. It wasn't very long after we were there. And so that's been a long time ago, and I still remember it. I still remember that. And how sweet that was for her to want to give me something. And her gift was actually very valuable and useful, and something that at the time I couldn't do for myself. And God used a little girl to show me his goodness, and that he could provide for the biggest things, but even for those tiny little things that don't mean anything to anybody else, but they mean everything to you. And man, did he use that. He was using that to help me and to perform some things in my life too. He was perfecting some things. He was completing some things. He was helping me in some things and create new relationships and helping me so much. Another way that I'll say that he has changed me is through his discipline. He disciplines me, and he reveals to me things that I didn't realize. His word, when you look through the word, it's like looking in a mirror. And so many times you'll see yourself in his word. I think about when Jesus was praying for his disciples, and he said, and Lord, not them alone, but them also who will believe. He was talking about those who that will believe by their word. So he was talking about those that were going to be believers by hearing about Jesus, by hearing the gospel, and they were going to be saved. And the next generation, and the next generation, he was praying for all of us who had yet to even been born. He was already praying for us and thinking about us and thinking about me and thinking about you. Man, he's awesome. He's amazing. But even in saying all that, he still gives us discipline. He still knows, even in his word, not just to reveal those kind of things to us, but he reveals to us when we've got that root of bitterness. He used that in my life, that scripture, the preacher preached on that on a Sunday night about the root of bitterness. And I realized that was a huge problem in my life, that I needed to get down to the root of the problem. And the root of the problem wasn't everybody else or everything else or even the circumstances or even even all the stuff that was going on. That wasn't the problem. It was the root of bitterness, that I was hurt. I had been hurt, and I needed to deal with it. I needed to come to terms with it, and I needed to forgive the guilty party, because God was going to take care of them. He was going to handle it. He was going to change them, and that I needed to get down to the root of my bitterness and not let it make me bitter, but let it make me better. And so his discipline changed me so much. I've shared this several times, even this year, of how the Lord used Job, looking at the book of Job, those later verses where Job is asking why, And God answers him with questions after question after question. I mean, chapter after chapter of questions. Were you there when I created the foundations of the earth? Did I need to ask you anything? Were you there? Were you helping me? Were you, do you have some counsel to give me about when I was doing this and when I was doing that? He gave him all these things, and he was letting Job know, you don't have to have the answers. I don't have to give you an answer. I'm God. I don't owe you an explanation because I'm in charge. And Job got an attitude adjustment real quick. When I read those verses, I got an attitude adjustment real quick. I didn't even make it to verse number 4. I was in Job chapter 38, reading 1, 2, 3. I got my attitude adjustment before I even got to verse number 4. And then I continued to read and get excited and just so thankful, and just looking at his power, because I got discouraged about some things I was praying about, because I was pouting because things looked like they were getting worse, and I was getting tired and I was getting weary, and I was questioning, was the Lord going to come through? Was it just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse? I was just getting upset, and the Lord was like, no, we're not going to do that. And even in in chapter 38 of Job, I still love where it said it in verse number 3. It says, gird up now thy loins like a man, for I will demand of thee, and answer thou me. And that's what he told me. He was like, gird up thy loins. Get your big girl britches on and get back to work. Get back to praying. That's what your job. My job was to pray about this situation and not look at that it was getting worse. Not focus on the circumstances that it was getting worse, because my job wasn't to look at it. My job was to pray about it. And so God used discipline, and man, did that ever change me. It is still excites me. And do you think, man, how do you get excited about being disciplined? When God does it, he knows how to take it and change an attitude to where you are grateful and thankful, and you're asking forgiveness. Lord, I'm so sorry that I got discouraged about that. I'm so sorry that I was looking at the circumstances and not, because to look at the circumstances means you take your eyes off the Lord, and he wants us to keep our eyes on him. And so I would say that his discipline has been one of those huge things in my life that I look back, and I know that when I receive discipline in the future, that he's using it to change some things, to perform some things, to complete some things, to end and cease some things so that he can replace them with something else. And I think about the way I used to be and how that Lord's changed me and what I am now, and I'm not where I need to be, but I don't get discouraged about it, because man, he's brought me so far, and he's going to keep performing those things and keep completing those things. He's going to keep doing those things in my life and your life. And how do I know that? Because of the last thing that I'll share. And there's probably just hundreds of more things, but this is the 6 things that I could think of that were just tremendously huge in my life, and that it would be his faithfulness. His faithfulness, that no matter how dark I've been, no matter how long the road was, no matter how weary that I became and unable to do, that no matter how selfish that I felt, or how self-righteous that I felt in a situation, or how self-centered I was in a situation, that his faithfulness, he was faithful even when I was not. Even when I was, I didn't want to do, and I didn't want to listen, and I wanted to be rebellious, and I wanted to be disobedient, and even all of those things that I mess up, that I misunderstand, that I just get it wrong. I just get it wrong sometimes, get it wrong a lot of times, but he's still faithful. See, he loves me no matter what. He loves you no matter what. He has me. He's keeping me. I'm safe with him no matter what. And he knows how to do all these other things in my life to change me and to make me what he wants me to be. And so I just wanted to spend one more time pondering on that word, the Lord will perfect. And that's talking about those things concerning me. That would be those things concerning you. It's not perfecting. He's not using things in my life you know, for me to look at your life. He's using those things for me to look at mine. I'm responsible for me. And I'm not to judge you. I'm not to be responsible for you. I'm to keep my eyes on him. And I am to, respond to the things that he's doing, to that work that he's doing in me and through me, and all those things that it takes to do that. And this is just 6 little things. It's that he's taken forgiveness, receiving it and giving it. That he's taken prayer, praying for those that we love and praying for those that we're upset with. Pray for those especially, and pray for God's goodness and help. He's used his word. It just is like light bulbs goes off all the time. I'm just so thankful for his word. It's been his goodness. He's been good to me, and I didn't deserve it. And he's been good to me in such small, specific little ways that were huge, gigantic ways for me. He's used his discipline to change me, to correct an attitude that I would be even like, Lord, I can't stand myself, and I don't know what to do about it. I think I had said that right before he showed me Job 38. I said, Lord, I am so mad at myself. I'm so sick of myself, and what do I do about it? I don't know what to do about it. And Lord, I'm in your word, and I need to know where to go. And I was in Psalms, because that's my go-to place when I don't know what to do with myself. I go to Psalms. And I just had accidentally flipped over, but purposefully flipped over, and looked down, and I was on Job chapter 38, and I just started reading. And I got the discipline that I needed, and it changed my attitude. And then to find out that even when I got a bad attitude, and even when I mess up and I said something and it shouldn't have come out that way, or I shouldn't have said it that way, and I'm like, oh, I messed up again, and to find out that he's faithful, that he will forgive us, that he will be there, he will listen, he will hear. He's faithful, his faithfulness. And that's just 6 things that would be things of ways that he's used to do some things in and through my life. And he's using those things to change you and in and through your life, and making you into what he wants you to be and what he wants me to be. He's still working on me, and I'm so thankful. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.